Hi, thanks for watching. Well, surprise, surprise, we got an Insta-Verdict in the Hannah Gutierrez-Reed involuntary manslaughter trial in New Mexico.
We find the defendant, Hannah Gutierrez, guilty of involuntary manslaughter as charged in count one.
Okay, so I just made a video actually right before the verdict came out, but basically I did actually predict that she would be found guilty. Okay, but anyway, so I'm still going to put this video up, but I just wanted to make this comment. And so the rest of the video, it's going to seem like I don't know about the verdict, but that's because I made the video right before the verdict. So here it goes. So I'd like to comment on the Hannah Gutierrez-Reed case in New Mexico. Hannah Gutierrez-Reed right now is awaiting jury deliberations. They just finished closing arguments today in the Rust shooting trial in New Mexico. And basically, this is the case where Helena Hutchins, the cinematographer, was killed after she was shot on the set by Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin didn't realize that the pistol that he was using as a prop actually had a live round. Okay, and there's just all these questions about who's responsible for this live round getting into the gun, and more importantly, even if no one is found to be responsible for the actual live round getting in the gun, who is responsible for allowing a gun with a live round to actually get into the hands of an actor and let alone get discharged, killing another member of the set. So this is a really serious case. And I guess I just wanted to make some comments. Okay, for anybody who doesn't know, I used to be an attorney, and for the last 12 or 13 years, I work in criminal defense, and I work in consulting, strategy consulting, and legal research in criminal defense. And basically, I do have some thoughts about this case. Okay, my first thought, looking at this defense attorney, Jason Bowles. Okay, my first thought is that the best argument he could come up with in his closing argument was that Hannah Gutierrez-Reed didn't know that the gun was loaded with a live round. Okay, she didn't know that there were live rounds on the set, and that it wasn't foreseeable that live rounds could make their way onto the set.
The 100 years of Hollywood, this has not happened in a situation like we saw in this case. No one on that set foresaw, knew, or thought that live rounds were going to be on that set. No one. You did not hear one witness in this case. Even Miss Morrissey said there was no evidence that Hannah knew about live rounds coming on, or this was done. There's no evidence of that. Nobody thought live rounds were going to be on set because it was inconceivable that live rounds would appear.
Okay, that's basically the case will live or die on that proposition. Okay, and basically my response to that is I cannot believe that Jason Bowles, this defense attorney, didn't convince Hannah to plead guilty to a much lesser charge. She could have pleaded guilty to something very minor, okay, and probably just gotten probation. I don't understand why she went to trial. I think that's putting her too much at risk. She's a very young person. And I think this attorney I don't know if it's his big ego or he just doesn't know how to control his client. But I think a good attorney would have gotten that client to understand that she was in a lot of trouble. And the fact that he's saying that it wasn't foreseeable that the gun could have been loaded with a live round, and that it wasn't foreseeable that that she didn't know, and therefore it wasn't foreseeable. I think those are terrible arguments. Okay, and to me that shows that he knows. I think that he has a pretty weak case. Okay, or he should know. He should know better. And so my only question is how he wasn't able to control her to get her to plead guilty. And the only thing I can think of is that maybe she basically said, "Hey, I'll just find another attorney if you don't want to actually take this to trial." I don't know. I don't know what she's thinking. I don't understand Hannah Gutierrez-Reed because I think a good attorney would help her understand. And even if an attorney in New Mexico couldn't get her to understand, going back to California, her dad could get her an attorney in California who would help her understand that it would not be a good idea to go to trial. So I don't actually understand this. I'm actually confused. And then as far as the merits of Jason Bowles' argument, that, hey, she didn't know, she had no idea that the gun was loaded. She had no idea there were live rounds on the set. And also it wasn't foreseeable that on a Hollywood set, you could actually accidentally have live rounds. Okay. My answer to that is, why do you even have armorers? Okay, what's the purpose? Why have any armorer if it's totally unforeseeable that a live round could accidentally make it onto a set? it's one of the worst arguments I've ever seen, and I can't believe he believes that's a good argument. Okay, I don't know what he's thinking. Maybe he's thinking that one jury member is going to nullify, or make a hung jury. Maybe he's holding out that one juror is just going to go against all legal standards and just refuse to convict her. I don't know what he's thinking, but to me, that's a lot of risk to be putting a young person. Obviously, my opinion. I think that Hannah Gutierrez-Reed had no business getting hired for that kind of job. Okay, that. It doesn't matter who your family is, who her father is. She has a famous father who's famous for being an armorer in Hollywood. But that is a super critical job where if you don't have your shit together, if you're not really solid person with really good judgment, and if you're not really meticulous and really detail oriented, somebody could get killed, and not just from bullets, just from even like blank rounds or whatever. Even dummy rounds. Well, I don't know about dummy rounds, but I know they use blanks in films and in movies, television and films. And basically, even though there isn't an actual projectile, there's still an explosion. Okay. And sometimes you can have stuff stuck in the barrel where, even like a blank round could actually cause something to eject out of the barrel of the gun. And you could potentially injure or kill somebody even without actual projectiles, even without full bullets. So the bottom line is that, anytime you're dealing with live ammunition, regardless of whether you actually have live rounds, okay, that's very dangerous. And the whole point of having an armorer in a television or movie production is because it is foreseeable that people can get killed, even if there aren't live rounds. Okay, so the bottom line is you need somebody who's really, really detail oriented, who will assume that anything's possible. Okay. And so there should be an assumption, anytime you're handed a gun, if somebody hands you a gun on a Hollywood set and says, hey, put this gun to somebody's head and pull the trigger, nobody in the world should feel that that's a safe thing to do without first checking the gun, first checking every single one of the supposed bullets to make sure they're not actual live rounds. Okay. And this idea that, well, never in the history of Hollywood has there been like a live round on the set. Well, first of all, we don't know that. Okay. We do not know that. We just know that nobody's been killed with a live round on a Hollywood set. For all we know, in all the history of Hollywood, there's probably been a couple of incidents where a good armorer or a good production people have actually caught by accident or noticed. We don't know that, but the whole point of having an armorer is exactly to discover those very unlikely things, like if you actually have like a live bullet on the set, or if maybe there are issues with, let's say, blank rounds, but you have like stuff caught in the barrel of the gun, that would make it unsafe. So the fact that Jason Bowles, his big argument is that this has never happened. This is unprecedented. There was no reason to expect actual live ammunition. And, she did not know there was live ammunition. To me, that's not a real argument, because the whole point of having an armorer is to be there, watching, to just in case something unusual happens like that. Okay. So, I just think, to me, that just shows to me that the defense doesn't even believe in their case. And so I guess they're holding out for one person to hang the jury. I'm not sure what the theory is, but me as a person, I work in consulting, and I do legal research, and I work with defense teams. That's what I do for a living. I would vigorously protest letting a case like that get to trial. If I were to write like a memorandum for a defense attorney, my recommendation would be, in terms of strategy, would be, you need to settle this case. So I don't get it. I'm actually just completely mystified by what the strategy is with that attorney, and I just think he admitted today in his closing argument that he doesn't really believe in the case, because his proposition that just because she didn't know there were live rounds, and this idea that it wasn't foreseeable that you could have live rounds on a movie set. I mean, if that's true, then why even have armorers? Why even have any professional to check these guns? So I think this is just a case where I think it's very clear. And I do think this case meets the criteria for involuntary manslaughter in New Mexico, because you have to have either recklessness or some kind of like criminal level negligence that actually results in the killing, somebody getting killed. And I think in this case, just the fact that, as I understand it, when they checked this pistol that got into what's his name, the actor Baldwin, the pistol that got into Alec Baldwin's hand, Okay, my understanding was that she didn't even do a complete barrel check. Okay. And to me, that's just, when combined with basically her behavior on the set, letting people point guns at each other, and just generally just not even checking the ammunition, because there were lots of live rounds on the set actually. It to me shows that, even if it wasn't intentional, um, I think that she just did not have the level of diligence and the level of detail oriented. She wasn't detail oriented enough to actually be able to be, let's say, non-negligent. Okay. And so to be non-negligent, you have to be diligent. The opposite of negligence is diligence. And she did not have the diligence to do that job properly. And so to me, that is negligence. Okay. So it's some kind of, I think it's gross negligence, because this is just totally foreseeable. It's the whole purpose of having, it's the fundamental purpose of having an armorer on the set, is to exactly prevent exactly what happened. So to me, this is not even an interesting case. I don't think this required that much fancy argumentation on either side. I think both sides made this more complicated than it had to be. I think this is a no-brainer. And I think that Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, I think too bad that her father or her people back in California didn't tell her, hey, don't hire an attorney in New Mexico who's going to try to take you to trial. You need to hire somebody who's going to shepherd you through a good plea agreement. You're going to do a little bit of probation and you're done. I don't know what she's trying to rescue here, because going to trial, it's actually made her look worse, because she's trying to propose to the world that somehow it wasn't foreseeable that could happen. That's the whole purpose of having an armor. So I'm completely mystified. And the jury could do anything. The jury could hang. There could be some crazy jurors that they just don't want to see her convicted. So I'm not going to predict the jury outcome, but I would think that my fear as a defense counsel would be that it's very high likelihood that she would be guilty. So I don't know what the jury's going to vote, but I'm not going to be surprised if she's guilty of something. And in my opinion, I think she's guilty of the manslaughter. So this thing should have pled out, and she could have pled to a much lower, much easier. She wouldn't have to plead to manslaughter. She could have pled to some kind of just criminal negligence, and she could probably be done with her probation now. So I don't get it. And my same comments for Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin, he can just say, hey, they told me it was a clean gun, but if somebody tells me I have a clean gun, am I just going to point it at somebody's head? I'm the kind of person where, hey, thank you, but I'm also going to check the chamber just to see, so Alec Baldwin could have taken the trouble to check the bullets in that pistol too. So, bottom line, I think they're both, in my opinion, I think they're both guilty of manslaughter. So, it's just my opinion. And, I do work in criminal defense, but anyway, appreciate your patience and thanks for watching.